Okay, hello. Thank you for your coming. Oops. The talk of today is how to hack crypto, especially how to hack export restrictions. The term crypto hacking is used a lot by Bruce Schneier, but I think if you think about hacking as a creative way to deal with techniques, I think our things about crypto hacking is neither than the things what Schneier has defined about this. What do I want to talk about as three main topics and one fun topic. The first is how to improve key lengths for export restricted software with only some operations, easy to implement. Then how to use signature cards and authentication cards to do encryption, to build up a nice encryption system. And one funny point is how to use non-decrypting Java cards for NN decryption. First thing is the discussion about key lengths. You all know the discussion about the key length of DAS, 65-bit. And of course, then you know that it's really not a great deal to crack 40-bit cryptography in only some hours. And so there are some questions how to deal with weak cryptography, especially if you have hardware to work with. You know that there is in the Netscape protocol, for instance, there are possibilities to alter some bits and have strong cryptography, you know, fortify. But if you have hardware stuff, it might be a bit more complicated. So the first trivial idea is to use triple encryption. That means you encrypt it, you take the encrypted ciphertext, encrypt it once more and once more, and you have provable longer key length then, of course, about the factor of 2. That means if you use triple DAS with three different keys and 3 independent keys, it means that you have a key length from about 112 bit. And so if you use 3 times 40-bit cipher, you may have security about 80 bit. But this is, of course, pretty slow. And though there's another strategy called wittening, which is much faster and much more easy to implement. There, I must show a slide. This is the whole trick. Oh, we have a flip chart. Our analog techniques. So, oops, no problem. Yes, better. So, you have a plain text. You have an encryption with the key. And in most cases, it will be DAS. And you get the ciphertext. So you have here the key, and here maybe a 65 bit. So what can you do? You have here 64-bit. And here 64-bit. You do the following. You take 64-bit more key material and do following. You take the 64-bit, make a simple XOR. You can do more sophisticated stuff, but a simple XOR does it and has some nice features as bit independence and so on. And you make a XOR here. this XOR before and after the encryption you can do maybe on the host system if you communicate with a smart card or stuff like this. So you have in the case of DAS, and it's possible, I want to say it's not very clear in Bruce Schneier's book and even in the original paper by Killian and Roggaway, that it's possible to use only one block, only one additional 64-bit key. But the security proofs are in the same strategy, so you can use one key and XOR it before and after encryption. And there is something easy to see, is that a straightforward brute force attack must try every 64-bit here and every 65-bit here, every combination of this. So a straightforward attack will need about 120-bit. So a direct brute force attack is not possible. There are some more sophisticated attacks, but the main point is something that was proved, that we have effective key length from key length of the cipher, e.g. 65-bit or 55-bit in the case of DAS when we take a look at the complementary property, plus block length, here 64-bit, minus 1, minus logarithmus from m, where m is a amount of plain text and ciphertext pairs we can get. For instance, if somebody can take 2 to 30 blocks are 64-bit, that are 8 gigabyte with the same key. You have an effective key length if you use DAS from 88-bit. If you do the switching. If you use it with RC4, 40, or you have an effective key length of 33-bit. And if you use the funny skip track algorithm, which is 80 bits, you have an effective key length from 103 bit. So once more, K is the key length This is proved by Killian and Roggaway. You find it, for instance, on www.counterpain.com, the crypto papers. If you go to the crypto papers at the company of Bruce Schneier, you can find this paper. And we are writing another paper I will publish maybe even on the next CCC Congress about this. So take a look. K is a key length, N is a block size, 1 is a 1, and log M is the number of known plain text and ciphertext pairs. Or M is P1, C1, PM, CM. So if you encrypt your whole 8 gigabyte bit partition with one key, you shouldn't do this. But if you do it, you have no problem, because you have an effective key length, and no problem against brute force attack from 88 bit, what seems to be sufficient for most questions. So it's a pretty cheap way, because you only need 2 additional XOR by 64-bit value. And I must say it sounds so funny. No, only some practical guys doing this stuff. For instance, Peter Honeyman in Chicago. But most people use this borrowing triple DAS And it's not proof that DDS construction is much, maybe it's not possible to prove that DDS construction are much more secure than DES is X construction under practical assumptions. So, and some further words. This witnessing is not a voodoo by a ugly-looking young hacker. It's an idea by Merkle and Rivest, and it's used in some products of ASE since years under the name DESX. And security proof have been given by Killian and Roggeway. Many candidates for the AES, for the DES successor, use witnessing too. And we are working on some proof that even sophisticated attacks like related key crypto analysis is not possible if we make more sophisticated DESX construction. And maybe I will present this paper on the next CCC conference. Okay, you say one main goal of the first part is look into your Schneier. Look for witnessing and read this, and this is provable more security than other constructions, and use it if you have to deal with silly export restricted hardware. And if you have software, it's pretty more easy for most construction. The second area is how to do funny things with authentication and signature cards. And this is a mathematical construction called Lubby-Rakov. And it's following idea. You know, maybe you know that DES and other ciphers have a construction called Feistel network. And it looks like so. Oh, it's not so nice painted, but if you take a look at a cryptography book, you will find that is a so-called Feistel construction. Takes a plain text into half, do something with the one half, add it to the other half, and do it once more in different directions. And this is called a Feistel cipher with only a few of rounds. Is called Lubby-Rakov cipher, and there are a lot of security proofs. And the proofs are in the following way: that somebody can make a close relation between this construction, the security of this construction, and the security of this function, this so-called round function F1 till F3. Though we can say if our round function is pseudo-random, for instance, or is secure in a special sense, then the whole construction is okay. So we can use here well-tested round function and have a construction to encrypt this stuff. So what's the main idea? The main idea is that you don't need here a mapping. If you have, you don't need here a cryptographic mapping. You can build these functions with a hash function, for instance. Hash functions are very fast and not export restricted. And we can use a keyed function, for instance, Mac function like HMac. We can easily prove some security margins. We have done this in a paper about multi-key encryption with non-encryption smart card. I've put URL on the web. And it's a funny thing because you can use standard DSL cards, for instance, to do that construction. So, coming to the more funnier stuff, one of the funny stuff I ever read is following the new Java cards, which is pretty cool stuff compared with smart cards for Windows. Makes following thing. Makes a split between the cryptographic framework and the cryptographic algorithms. We know this, but the funniest thing is that they say, okay, we want to give the opportunity to use our smart card for authentication, for calculating max, but not for doing encryption and decryption. And so we are very clever. We put only an encryption class into our non-export restricted stuff, and the decryption stuff is export restricted. And if somebody has here only one lesson of cryptography, you know that there are a lot of modes which only use encryption. For instance, if you take a look at the cipher feedback mode used, for instance, in the PGP and OpenPGP stuff, they do following. They encrypt an initial vector and XOR this stuff with a plain text. And it's not very difficult to say that there's decryption not needed, because if you have ciphertext, you do the same. You take the initial vector, put it in the cipher, encrypt it, and go in this direction and get the plain text. So it's maybe the most funny export restriction I've ever seen in this area. So to the last point, some funny stuff. It's mainly two links. One link is take a look at the page of Bruce Schneier, Counterpaint. There is a really nice cipher by building a stream cipher with solitaire cards, and it's pretty interesting, because if you take a closer look on this stuff, you see that it's almost ASCII4 cipher which is used in this construction. It's called solitaire stuff. Question?
Yeah, but it's only for 26 characters. You 26 characters, and we asked Buchstein, because you have 52, and you divide everything basically back to 26,
yeah,
divided by 2. And we asked him if it would break the security if you would take 2 characters set. He said basically not. So you can not only encrypt some stupid text, not any white space or numbers, because this is what solitaire does today, but you can use the 52, and then you can encrypt 26 alpha characters plus numbers plus some
yeah. And no, of course not. It's not restricted to a similar single card game. You can do this stuff, of course, using some cigarette paper and write numbers on it. But this is pretty interesting stuff, and it's quite difficult to restrict the export of playing cards and card games from the US. And second one is that there are a lot of cipher you can mention on a tattoo or body painting, and I want to say you should take a look at the page of Adam Buck, where is even a tattoo in ASA in Perl. So what I want to say is that there are some algorithms that are easy to remember and easy to keep in mind. And so it's even more ridiculous to have export restriction in this area. Okay, thank you. Question? Okay, any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Let's go in the sunshine.